Well, as the campaigns ramp up their efforts in those electoral battlegrounds on the airwaves and online, the parties have also launched new ads in recent days, including this one from the Conservative campaign that went out late last week.
How's your son, David?
Well, it's been a tough few years for him. He just can't seem to get ahead.
Yeah, we had to pay for Sarah's down payment last year. Things are tough for her, too.
You know what Mark Carney says.
Come on, do you really think that a fourth Liberal term is going to change anything?
You know, I've been thinking the same thing.
Are we really going to give these clowns a fourth term? I'm voting Conservative. There you go.
Yeah, for a change.
Well, let's talk about the campaign strategies as we approach the final days. Cheryl Oates is principal at GT and most recently campaign director for the Saskatchewan NDP. Michele Cadario is the CEO of Vanguard Strategy and a former national campaign director for the Liberals. Jordan Paquet, vice president of Blue Sky Strategy Group, was deputy campaign manager for the PEI-PC party in the last provincial campaign. Hello to all three of you.
Hello.
Hi. So no surprise. We're going to start with you, Jordan, because that was a Conservative ad, and clearly it did not feature the Conservative leader. And throughout this campaign, we've seen the party essentially pull better than has Pierre Poilievre. Is this ad an admission that Pierre Poilievre has essentially hit his ceiling in terms of attracting new voters to join the Conservative cause?
I don't think it's so much that. I mean, he's been featured prominently in ads throughout the campaign, him doing his own voiceovers, lots of online digital ads, some that are still out there as well. I think this type of an ad is something that shows two Canadians sort of in their own setting, you know, in this case, two older gentlemen at the driving range. Having Pierre walk right up into the middle of that might be a little bit awkward as far as one of those conversations go. So no, I wouldn't read too much into that at all. I think this is just the Conservatives trying to zero in on what they believe one of the ballot questions is, and that's who can best deliver change after the last 10 years. And I think they'll supplement that with other commentary by the leader over the next bit too.
Yeah, Michele, what do you make of the absence of Pierre Poilievre in that ad?
Well, it was a choice, and it was a choice for a reason. You don't pull your leader out of an ad if they are pulling way ahead of your party, as is the case with Mark Carney to the Liberals. And clearly, it's a certain demographic that they're going after with that ad. There's, you got two white men who are a little more elderly and clearly doing well. And not typically the cohort that the Conservatives have to chase during an election campaign. So I also find that really interesting. It certainly got a lot of views, and so I give credit to them for that. It is clearly a strategic ad that's done, and only because you see the numbers that support that kind of a thing.
Okay, and Cheryl, what do you say? Like, when you look at the strategy of that, what does it say to you about where the Conservatives are right now in terms of trying to close the gap with the Liberals, who are leading in the polls?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things. I think the fact that Pierre Poilievre is not in the ad in the closing week, when we should be, past the persuasion phase and just reminding people to go out and vote, is very telling. And I think if you look at the polling, it's really clear to see Pierre Poilievre's negative sentiment numbers have been trending up, especially compared to Mark Carney's throughout the campaign. He, like others have said, is polling lower than his party, and he's not an asset in terms of advertising right now. The second kind of wild thing to me is if the Conservatives do not have white, older, middle class, upper middle class golfers already voting for them, like, who do they have? It's wild to me that this is the group that they're currently trying to persuade or get out the vote with. But I mean, watching this, I've always admired the Conservatives' digital machine. They have an incredible digital machine that has curated online communities of millions and millions of you for everything they do. But the content of their advertising is just not as impressive. And you can see that in this ad, but it is not the only cringeworthy ad this campaign.
Okay, well, listen, we don't have time for all the ads, but I do want to play right now a Liberal ad for all of you, because unlike the Conservative ad, it does feature very prominently the Liberal leader. Let's take a look at what's been out in recent days from the Carney campaign. Okay, so Jordan, again, obviously the Liberals are basically saying that Pierre Poilievre's accomplishments pale in comparison to the accomplishments made by Mr. Carney. How do Conservatives counter that?
Yeah, sure. And I mean, one person you didn't see in the ad, of course, is Justin Trudeau. I mean, that's, you know, it's obviously that's more the Conservatives would put in.
But that's not the campaign, right?
No, 100%. Yeah, no, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, they're trying to put off Mark Carney as kind of this boring economist. I mean, the ad is just pretty plain. You know, relatively low budget. I think pretty easy to produce something like that. And yeah, I think that just goes what the Liberals are obviously wanting to put out there right now is saying like we're the guy that has been, you know, been out there. The world economy before. Pierre Poilievre's just been a career politician. So I think the Conservatives are contrasting that by showing some of the experience and showing and really tying Mark Carney back to that decade of Liberals over the last decade and Justin Trudeau. And that's what we've seen as part of their ads. I mean, similar to the golf ads, similar to some of the other ones that they're putting out. That's what they really want to make this about, is still about a change election and showing that Mark Carney doesn't actually represent that change.
Mm-hmm. What do you say to what Jordan's saying? Because I do have a follow-up, but first and foremost, to your response to what Jordan's saying, Michele.
Well, I guess I'm not surprised. That's what, you know, you've got to spin it some way. It is clearly about leadership. It's clearly going down to the ballot question of who is best to take on Trump. And so putting that kind of experience, and yes, it's boring economic experience on a global scale, compared to somebody who's been in politics and has never had a job outside of politics. And so, you know, that's what they want to contrast. It's a very strong contrast. It certainly has been something that seems to be working with Canadians. And so I think that when you have that kind of a pedal that you can press, you keep putting that pedal on the gas.
Although, you know, when you look at the Conservative campaign, just about every event the party has had, they've had an announcement and a policy platform where Mark Carney keeps repeating the same lines of one government, not 13. We can do more for ourselves than they can do to us. You know, does that create a problem for the Liberals in the final days of trying to keep momentum up when the Conservatives have now come out with the campaign and it's backing up, has been announcement after announcement after announcement?
Well, I think you've had all the parties come out with announcements. I think that Mr. Carney's have been very much focused in on how do we prepare ourselves and position ourselves vis-a-vis the United States? How do we keep our sovereignty? How do we get our economy to be stronger? You know, I realize that after the debates, plastic straws seem to be the top of the list for the Conservatives. Big, strong day. I'm not sure that that's the ballot question for Canadians, or that was top of mind when Canadians were coming out of the election campaign. But fair ball, if that's the route that they want to go down. At this point, you know, all of the platforms are out. You know, I think that there's a lot of wishful numbers, perhaps in the Conservative one. But Canadians have what they have to be able to decide. And so you see ads now that are just trying to reinforce each party's narrative and, you know, juxtapose that to their opponents.
Okay, well, party narrative, and you know, Cheryl, I want to get your thoughts on what we're seeing from the NDP in the final days, really honing in on that debate performance that Mr. Singh has had, mainly online campaigns, it seems. Take a look at what we're seeing from the NDP.
But the problem is, who have you served? You've served to benefit those at the very top. You jacked up the price of homes for people living in affordable homes as a strategic decision. You dodged taxes. And then your decisions as Prime Minister show you're not prioritizing people, but you're prioritizing big business, billionaires.
Is that message having any impact? You know, because when the pollsters ask Canadians which leader they thought performed well, you know, Jagmeet Singh is still at the bottom of that list. Does that type of ad campaign actually have impact for the party?
I think it does. I think watching the debate, there's a lot of people who have said, oh my gosh, the NDP were just so annoying to listen to. Jagmeet Singh just wouldn't stop talking and just kept needling. Completely agree that when it comes to debate performance, that is the case. It was, you know, having anyone just sort of chirp is tough to listen to. But when you think about what the NDP is trying to be in Parliament, like that's what people who are voting for the NDP, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for, you know, whoever's in power, this, you know, at this point, obviously it looks like the Liberals, whoever's in power, that we're going to have somebody holding accountability in Parliament, reminding them over and over and over again, no matter what they're on that day. What about healthcare? What about pharmacare? What about dental care? And what you saw in the debate was, an execution of a strategy for Jagmeet Singh to demonstrate what he would be in Parliament for Canadians and people in incumbent ridings, which is where the NDP are focused across Canada. That's what will motivate them to re-elect New Democrats, to say, we believe at this point that Mark Carney is on his way to forming government, but what we need is to be able to hold their feet to the fire and have the things that we care about most as New Democrats not be forgotten in Parliament. That's what we saw through the last term. And, annoying or not to listen to, that's what Jagmeet demonstrated through the debate as well.
Okay, listen, I only have about a minute and a half left, so 30 seconds for each of you. Last few days of this campaign, what are you watching out for with your particular party? What strategy do you think we're going to see, Jordan?
I think we're going to focus on where the leaders are traveling to. I mean, this is going to be just a very ground game, grind it out, get out the vote. Conservatives have a very organized ground game right now, a massive machine that they've built up. I think you'll see a lot of GTA over the next couple of days. I think you'll see another Vancouver trip out there, another Eastern swing. I think they'll do a bit of a crisscross, but specifically where in some of these areas as well that they go to and really zero in on. This is going to come down. It's still a very close election. It's going to be seat by seat.
Okay, Michelle, where are we going to see the Liberals? What are we going to see for the Liberals?
I agree largely with what Jordan said. You're going to see the Liberals likely in Quebec, GTA, and British Columbia in the Lower Mainland. It's a very close race. There's a lot of odd ridings that can kind of have weird splits, given just different circumstances. And so it is going to be telling to see where folks are going. Are you going into pickup seats or are you going into save the furniture seats? And then it's all behind the scenes ground game, and we're in a sprint now.
Okay, final word to you, Cheryl. What are you going to be watching out for the NDP in the last few days?
Yeah, the NDP's GOTV campaign in these final days is much more strategic and targeted than the two major parties. We're going to see the NDP really move to get out the vote in the places where they currently hold seats as they work to maintain their party status. So that means on Vancouver Island, that means in the Lower Mainland, that means in southwestern Ontario and in Manitoba, looking to get over that 12 seat threshold and really looking to outperform what we've seen in poll aggregators.
Okay, well, listen, thank you for this. We will speak next week after the election, I'm sure. But for now, Jordan, Michelle, and Cheryl, thank you for the time.
Thanks.